The scissors sliced through hair like a blade through silk. Long, dark strands fell in slow motion, catching the fluorescent lights of the empty hallway. Laughter echoed off the walls, cruel, savage, victorious. Isabella Lawson knelt on the cold linoleum, her mother's legacy falling around her in black ribbons. 4 shadows towered above her, but she didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just watched her hair die. "Still think you're special with that Rapunzel hair." Alexander Knight's voice cut deeper than the scissors. The student council president stood with his arms crossed, his $200 blazer pristine, his smile practiced from years of campaign posters. At 18, he already wore power like a second skin. Nathan Brooks gripped Isabella's shoulders, forcing her to stay still. The lacrosse captain's hands were calloused from years of wielding sticks as weapons. "Stop moving, or I'll make this worse." Before we continue, let me tell you something. If this moment gave you chills, hit that like button and tell me in the comments what you think Isabella's planning. And if these stories of transformation touch your heart, there's a thanks button below. Your support helps me create more content for those who need to hear it. Now, let's discover what Isabella found in her mother's closet. Christopher Young circled them with his phone, recording every second. The lens caught everything: the scattered hair, the kneeling girl, the predators at play. This is going viral. Everyone needs to see what happens when you don't know your place. Zachary Peterson's hands shook as he held the scissors. The 16-year-old wannabe looked sick, but he kept cutting. Each snip earned him another second of belonging, another moment of not being the victim. But Isabella smiled. Not a fake smile, not a nervous smile, a real smile that made the scissors pause mid-cut. "Why are you smiling?" Nathan's grip tightened. "Are you insane?" Isabella looked up, meeting Alexander's eyes with a steady gaze that made him step back. "You don't understand what you've just started. Hair grows back, but what you've awakened—" She let the sentence hang, unfinished, like the strands of hair suspended in the air. "Hit her," Alexander ordered. "Make her understand." Nathan's hand connected with Isabella's face. Blood bloomed on her lip like a crimson flower. Still, she smiled. "Thank you," she said. Standing slowly, deliberately, she bent down and began collecting the cut hair, piece by piece, placing each strand carefully in her bag. "You've given me exactly what I needed." The 4 boys exchanged glances. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Victims were supposed to cry, to break, to run. They weren't supposed to collect their hair like treasure and thank their tormentors. Isabella shouldered her bag and walked past them, her butchered hair hanging in uneven chunks. "See you tomorrow, boys." They watched her go, an uneasy feeling settling in their stomachs. Alexander was the first to speak. "She's bluffing. Tomorrow she'll come crying to the administration, and my father will handle it like always." But Christopher had stopped recording, his face pale. "Did you see her eyes? That wasn't fear. That was planning." 24 hours earlier, Isabella had sat at her vanity, braiding her hair the way her mother taught her. Each strand wove through her fingers like memory itself. In the mirror, she could almost see her mother's hands guiding hers. "Every strand is a connection," her mother used to say, "to our past, our future, ourselves." The braid reached past her waist, a river of midnight that had never known scissors. Other girls at Rosewood Preparatory Academy spent hundreds on extensions and treatments. Isabella's hair was her inheritance, grown long through 17 years of careful tending. She'd transferred to Rosewood 3 months ago on a scholarship, The diversity quota. Alexander had called it loud enough for everyone to hear. The girl from the wrong side of Connecticut, who somehow tested into their $60,000 a year sanctuary. At first, she'd tried to blend in. She'd studied their mannerisms, their casual cruelty wrapped in designer clothes. She'd learned that Rosewood operated on unspoken rules older than the ivy crawling up its walls. And the first rule was simple: know your place or be put in it. Isabella had refused to learn her place. Now, in the present. She stood in her bathroom at home, surveying the damage in the mirror. They'd hacked at her hair like drunk barbers, leaving some parts long, others shorn close to the scalp. It should have been devastating. Instead, Isabella opened her mother's closet. The suitcase sat where it always had, covered in dust and memories. Inside, professional hair-cutting tools gleamed, scissors that cost more than textbooks, clippers that hummed with precision, guards and combs, and bottles of things Isabella had never understood. Until now. A leather journal lay beneath the tools. Isabella's hands trembled as she opened it. Her mother's handwriting flowed across the pages. Hair therapy healing from the roots up. Every cut is a chance to shed trauma. Every style is a step toward redemption. The broken come to us carrying their pain in their appearance. We give them permission to transform. Isabella read for hours, discovering a mother she'd never known, a woman who'd run an underground salon for abuse victims, who'd used her skills to help people reclaim themselves one haircut at a time. The journal detailed techniques, but more than that, it revealed a philosophy: never cut in anger, cut with intention. Every client carries a story. Your job is to help them write a new chapter. Isabella picked up the clippers. In the mirror, her mutilated hair looked like a war zone. She smiled that same smile that had unnerved her attackers. The clippers hummed to life. She started with the damaged parts, shearing away the violence with steady hands. Then, with an artist's precision, she carved an undercut that turned destruction into design. Geometric patterns emerged where chaos had been. When she finished, she looked like a warrior, fierce, intentional, reborn. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Saw what happened. They did the same to my sister. She didn't survive it. Isabella stared at the message. Then typed back, "Where can we meet?" The old art room, basement, midnight. The basement of Rosewood Preparatory Academy held forgotten spaces, rooms abandoned when new wings were built, when old traditions gave way to modern facades. Isabella descended the stairs, her footsteps echoing in the darkness. The art room materialized like a ghost. Dust motes danced in her phone's flashlight, and something else: fresh paint. The walls were covered in graffiti, but not random tags. These were stories painted in aerosol scenes of violence, of humiliation, all signed with the initials WC. You came. Brooke Anderson stepped from the shadows, her press badge still hanging from her neck. The school newspaper editor looked exhausted, haunted. I wasn't sure you would. Your sister, Isabella said. It wasn't a question. Julia. 2 years ago. Brooke's voice cracked. Alexander and his crew made her life hell, posted edited photos, spread rumors, destroyed her reputation. She transferred schools, but the damage followed her. Last spring, Brooke couldn't finish. Isabella studied the graffiti more closely. Each scene was dated, documented. Who's WC? I don't know, but whoever they are, they've been recording everything. Look. Brooke shined her light on a particular piece, a girl surrounded by laughing shadows, dated 3 months ago. That's Melissa Chen. She left after they put her diary online. Another scene showed a boy being held down while someone cut his hair. The date was last year. The pattern was clear. This wasn't random bullying. This was systematic destruction. Why doesn't anyone stop them? Isabella asked, though she suspected the answer. Alexander's father is Judge Knight. Nathan's mother runs the school board. Christopher's family donates millions. And Zachary, he's just desperate to belong. Brooke pulled out her phone. But I have something they don't know about. The video was grainy. Shot from a distance, it showed Julia on the school roof, Alexander and his crew surrounding her. The audio was unclear, but Julia's distress was evident. Then the camera shook, went black. She didn't jump, Brooke whispered. She was pushed, not physically, but they pushed her to it, and I can't prove it, because the official investigation was buried by guess who? Isabella felt rage build in her chest, but her mother's words echoed, "Never cut in anger, cut with intention." "We're going to need a space," Isabella said, "somewhere they won't expect." For what? Isabella smiled that dangerous smile. For healing, for truth, for transformation. My mother called it the cutting room. They spent the next 3 hours transforming the abandoned art room. Isabella worked with methodical precision while Brooke documented everything. They brought in a mirror from a theater storage room, a barber chair from a prop collection. The graffitied walls became their backdrop truth surrounding transformation. As dawn approached, a new piece of graffiti appeared on the far wall. "Where masks fall, fresh paint, still dripping." "We're not alone," Brooke said. "No," Isabella agreed. "We're not." And the next day at school, Isabella walked the halls with her warrior haircut. And something shifted. Students stared, but not with mockery, with awe. The girl who'd been publicly humiliated had transformed herself into something untouchable. Alexander noticed immediately. During student council, he kept glancing at her, his prepared speech faltering. Nathan missed 3 passes during lacrosse practice, distracted by Isabella watching from the bleachers. Christopher's hands shook as he scrolled through social media, finding no trace of the video he'd recorded. But it was Zachary who broke first. Isabella found him in the second-floor bathroom, staring at his reflection with tears streaming down his face. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing a roadmap of old scars. "I didn't want to," he whispered. "But if I don't hurt others, I'm the one who gets hurt." Isabella said nothing. She simply handed him a card handmade, with an address and a time. "There's another way. They'll destroy me if I don't show up to their next. They're already destroying you." Isabella touched one of his scars gently. "This isn't strength. This is survival. There's a difference." That night, Isabella waited in the cutting room. The space had transformed further. William Carter had been busy. New murals covered sections of wall, turning documentation into art. A story told in spray paint. Footsteps on the stairs. Slow, hesitant. William Carter entered first, a black eye blooming across his face. 16 years old, with artist's hands and too many secrets. "I know who you are," he said. "They hurt you because you wouldn't kneel." "Sit," Isabella said, gesturing to the barber chair. William sat, as Isabella draped the cape around him. He began to talk. "Nathan caught me drawing, said my art was too feminine, too soft, said he'd beat it out of me." His voice broke. "I've been documenting everything they do, every victim, every attack. Someday, someone will see." "Someone sees now," Isabella said. Beginning to cut his hair, each snip seemed to release something in him. His shoulders relaxed. His breathing steadied. "Why do you do this?" William asked. Isabella thought of her mother's journal. Because transformation isn't just about appearance. It's about reclaiming yourself. Every cut is a choice to let go of what they did to you. As she worked, William told his story. 3 years of systematic abuse. 3 years of being told his art was worthless. His soul too gentle for their world. 3 years of painting his pain on hidden walls because no one would listen to his voice. "Show me," Isabella said when she finished. William led her to a section of wall hidden behind an old cabinet. Moving it revealed his masterpiece, a timeline of terror stretching back years. Names, dates, incidents, hundreds of them. "My God," Brooke breathed, appearing in the doorway. "This is evidence of a system, not random acts." "The Brotherhood," William said quietly. "That's what the alumni call it, a tradition of breaking the weak to strengthen the pack. It goes back to the 1950s. Isabella studied the wall, her tactical mind working. "Then we break the tradition." Over the following days, the cutting room gained visitors, always at night, always in secret. Each person who sat in the chair brought a story. Each haircut became a ritual of release. Sarah, whose eating disorder started after Christopher posted her gym photos with cruel captions. She chose a pixie cut, shedding the long hair she'd hidden behind. Marcus, who had been forced to quit theater after Nathan's campaign of humiliation. He opted for a bold fade with lightning bolts, reclaiming his dramatic flair. Emma, whose scholarship was nearly revoked after Alexander planted evidence of cheating. She went for an asymmetrical bob, sharp enough to cut through lies. Each transformation was documented by Brooke, building a counter-narrative to the Brotherhood's legacy of destruction. But the hunters were growing nervous. Christopher noticed first his Instagram followers were receiving messages, screenshots of him tormenting others, paired with philosophical quotes about power and cowardice. His carefully curated image was crumbling. "Someone hacked me." He raged in their usual meeting spot, the abandoned pool house where the Brotherhood had planned attacks for decades. "They have everything." "Calm down," Alexander ordered, but his own confidence was shaking. That morning, he'd found a note in his locker, "Your father's sins don't have to be yours." Nathan paced like a caged animal. "It's her. That scholarship bitch. She's organizing them." "Then we end it," Alexander decided. "Tonight, we remind everyone why the Brotherhood exists." But Zachary wasn't there to agree. He'd been missing from their gatherings, making excuses, avoiding eye contact. They'd noticed his sleeves stayed rolled down, his laughter forced. "Where's Zach?" Nathan demanded. "Probably crying somewhere." Christopher sneered, but there was uncertainty in his voice. Alexander's phone buzzed, then Nathan's, then Christopher's. The message was simple. "The cutting room. Midnight. Come alone, or everyone sees the videos, not the ones you made. The ones made of you." Attached was a preview Alexander at age 10, being screamed at by his father. "Worthless. I'll make a man of you." The judge's hands gripping his son's shoulders hard enough to leave bruises. Alexander's face went white. "How did they?" "Mine shows." Nathan couldn't finish. The preview on his phone showed him in his bedroom, hitting himself after losing a game. His father's voice in the background, "Pain makes you stronger. Stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about." Christopher's showed him at 13, deleting messages from a cyberbullying victim who'd begged for mercy. His uncle's voice coaching him, "Never show weakness. Destroy or be destroyed." "It's not possible," Alexander said. "These are from our homes, our private—" Our phones, Christopher realized. We've been recording ourselves. Every video call, every... He stopped, the implications hitting. They have everything. The clock on the pool house wall showed 10:30 p.m., 90 minutes until midnight. We go together, Nathan said. Strength in numbers. The message said alone, Christopher argued. Since when do we follow their rules? Alexander's voice regained some authority. We go together. We end this. Whatever game she's playing, we finish it tonight. But each of them pocketed their phones carefully. Those preview videos burning in their minds, each wondered what else might be recorded, what other moments of vulnerability might be exposed. The cutting room waited, transformed into something between a salon and a sanctuary. Isabella had prepared 4 chairs. Brooke set up her recording equipment. William added finishing touches to a new mural, 4 boys looking in mirrors, seeing monsters in their reflections. They'll come, Isabella said. They have to. And if they bring violence, Brooke asked. Isabella touched the scissors at her belt, her mother's scissors, sharp enough for any transformation. Then they'll learn that some people cut back. Footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, uncertain, multiple sets. The door opened, but it wasn't the Brotherhood who entered first. Sophie Knight stood in the doorway, 14 years old with tears streaming down her face. Alexander's little sister clutched a backpack to her chest like armor. Sophie? Alexander's voice cracked as he pushed past the others. What are you doing here? Isabella stood behind the barber chair, calm as a lake before dawn. She came to me 3 days ago. Sit down, Sophie. Your brother needs to see this. No! Alexander moved to grab his sister, but Nathan caught his arm. Dude, wait! Sophie settled into the chair, her long blonde hair so like her brother's cascading down. Do you know what Dad does to Mom? Alex? Do you know why she takes those pills? Alexander's face went white. Sophie, don't. Every night, the yelling, the things he says to her, to us. Sophie's voice gained strength. And you're becoming him. I hear you on the phone with your friends, planning to hurt people. I see what you do at school. Isabella began to section Sophie's hair, each movement deliberate. She asked for a fresh start, a way to not look like the Knight family legacy. You had no right. Alexander started forward again, but stopped when Sophie spoke. Remember when I was 8? You protected me from him. You said you'd never let anyone hurt me. Sophie met his eyes in the mirror. What happened to that brother? The memory hit Alexander like a physical blow. Him at 12, standing between his father and Sophie, taking the belt meant for her. The promise whispered later as she cried, I'll never be like him. Isabella began cutting, each snip precise. With every fall of hair, Sophie seemed to shed years of fear. The other boys watched, transfixed, as transformation happened in real time. I recorded him, Sophie said quietly. Dad, for years, every cruel word, every threat, I was going to use it to protect Mom in the divorce. But then I realized you have recordings too, don't you? Alex, of yourself. Being him. Christopher's phone buzzed, then Nathan's, then Alexander's. New message. The choice is simple. Face your truth or run from it. But running means everyone else faces it for you. It's a trap, Christopher said. We should go. Where? Zachary appeared in the doorway, looking healthier than he had in months. I've been running for 3 years. It doesn't work. Traitor, Nathan spat. Yeah, maybe. Zachary entered fully, taking a position near William. But I'm a living traitor. Check your wrists lately. Nathan, we match. Nathan instinctively pulled his sleeves down, but everyone had seen the gesture. Isabella finished Sophie's haircut, a bold bob with undercut details that made her look fierce and free. Sophie stood, hugged Isabella, then walked to her brother. I love you, Alex, but I won't watch you become him. Either you get help, or I release everything. Mom's lawyer says it's enough to destroy him. She paused. And you. She left, passing a figure climbing the stairs. Ms. Diana Edwards entered, but she looked different. Gone was the professional distance of a teacher. This was a woman on a mission. Hello, boys, she said. We need to talk about Julia. The name dropped like a bomb. Brooke stepped out from behind her camera, face pale but determined. Julia Anderson was my sister. Ms. Edwards continued. I took this job to understand what happened, to find evidence. She looked at each boy in turn. I found so much more than I expected. You can't, Alexander started. Can't record public conversations, can't document what happens in my classroom, can't investigate my sister's death. Ms. Edwards pulled out a tablet. I have 18 months of observations. Every cruel word, every coordinated attack, every victim you've created. This is entrapment, Christopher said, reaching for his phone. My father will... Your father is Marcus Young. Correct, the defense attorney who specializes in getting privileged boys out of consequences. Ms. Edwards smiled coldly. He's good, but he's not good enough to fight video evidence, victim testimony, and a pattern of behavior spanning years. She tapped the tablet. The pool house appeared on screen, their private meeting place, bugged with tiny cameras. Impossible, Nathan breathed. That's private property, owned by the school. Ms. Edwards corrected, which gave me permission to install security cameras after several break-ins were reported. Funny what those cameras caught instead. On screen, their greatest hits played out. Planning sessions for destroying targets. Laughter over victims' tears. The night they'd cornered Julia on the roof, telling her she was worthless, that the world would be better without her. Turn it off, Alexander said, his voice broken. No, Ms. Edwards let it play. You need to see what you've become. When it finished, silence filled the cutting room like water. The boys looked at anything but the screen, but the truth hung in the air, undeniable. Isabella finally spoke. Sit down, Alexander. He looked at her. This girl he'd tried to break. Why, because transformation starts with a choice, and I'm giving you one. She gestured to the chair. Sit down and face who you are, or walk out and let the world face it for you. Alexander moved like a sleepwalker to the chair. As Isabella draped the cape around him, he began to shake. My father, he started. Your father is Judge Theodore Knight, Ms. Edwards said, graduated from Rosewood in 1992, Brotherhood member, 3 sealed complaints of domestic violence, 2 ethics violations, 1 covered-up assault case from college. How do you... Because my sister wasn't his first victim. She was just the first one who couldn't be saved. Ms. Edwards softened slightly. You're 18, Alexander, old enough to choose your own path. Isabella began cutting his hair, and with each snip, Alexander began to talk. The words poured out like water from a broken dam. I was 8 the first time he made me choose. Hit my sister, or get hit twice as hard. I chose to get hit. He said I was weak, said he'd make me strong. Alexander's voice cracked. By 12, I was hitting other kids. By 15, I was him. Everything he wanted. But not everything you wanted, Isabella said quietly. I wanted to play piano. He smashed my keyboard, said music was for weaklings. Alexander laughed bitterly. I haven't touched a piano in 6 years. There's one in the music room, Brooke said. Still there. Still waiting. Nathan shifted restlessly. This is insane. We're not sitting here for some therapy session. Then leave, Isabella said simply. But know that running means the videos go public tonight. All of them, including the ones of you. What videos of me? Nathan demanded. Christopher held up his phone. The ones where you're in your room after games, what you do to yourself when you lose. Nathan went still. You wouldn't. I recorded them for the Brotherhood archives, blackmail material, like we always do. Christopher's voice was hollow. Except someone got into our cloud. They have everything. Nathan sank into the second chair. I can't stop, he whispered. The pain is the only thing that makes sense when I hurt others. I don't have to hurt myself. When I hurt myself, I feel like I deserve to exist. William stepped forward. I know that feeling. The difference is, I turned it into art. You turned it into cruelty. Easy for you to say, Nathan shot back. You don't have my father. Brooks men don't lose. Brooks men don't cry. Brooks men dominate. He laughed bitterly. You know what Brooks men really do. They die at 50 of heart attacks, alone and angry. Isabella worked on Nathan's hair, her hands steady even as he shook with suppressed emotion. Your grandfather, dead, drank himself to death. Dad's heading the same way, and I'm next unless... He stopped. Unless you choose differently. Isabella finished. It's not that simple. No, Isabella agreed. It's not. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. But it's possible. Christopher stood abruptly. I'm not doing this. This is manipulation. This is what you do to others. Ms. Edwards interrupted. Except we're offering you a choice. They never got one. My uncle will destroy you, Christopher said. All of you. He owns judges, cops, politicians. Your uncle is under federal investigation for tax evasion, Ms. Edwards said calmly. Has been for 6 months. Your family's empire is crumbling, Christopher. You can go down with it. Or you can build something new. Christopher's phone rang. His mother. He answered on speaker without thinking. Christopher, don't come home tonight. Your uncle's been arrested. FBI raided his office. They're coming for the rest of the family next. I'm so sorry. Baby, I tried to protect you from this, but... He hung up, face ashen, wordlessly. He took the third chair. Isabella worked on all 3, moving between them like a conductor orchestrating a symphony. As she cut, they talked. Years of pain, pressure, spur, and poor choices spilled onto the floor with their hair. Alexander revealed the full extent of his father's abuse, physical, emotional, systematic destruction of any softness, the way he'd been trained to see kindness as weakness, empathy as failure. Nathan exposed his self-harm, the way pain had become his only constant, how his father's demands for perfection had twisted into a need to punish himself for any perceived failure. Christopher unveiled the criminal empire he'd been groomed to inherit, the way his family treated people as disposable assets, how he'd learned to manipulate before he could multiply. I killed someone, Christopher said suddenly. The room froze. Not directly, but Melissa Chen. I destroyed her so thoroughly she tried to overdose. She survived, but barely. I visited her in the hospital, brought flowers. She screamed when she saw me. I remember, William said quietly. I painted it. Her in the hospital bed, surrounded by flowers that looked like chains. As the night wore on, the cutting room became a confessional. Each revelation was met not with judgment, but with witness. Brooke documented it all, but her camera felt less like surveillance and more like sacred record-keeping. Why are you doing this? Alexander asked Isabella as she put finishing touches on his cut shorter, cleaner, nothing like his father's style. We destroyed you. No, Isabella said. You tried to, but my mother taught me something. Destruction and transformation look the same at first. It's what you do with the pieces that matters. She moved to a wall and revealed another hidden panel. Inside were journals, dozens of them. My mother's other clients, people who came to her broken and left whole, or at least more whole than before. Isabella selected one. This one's interesting. TK 1993. Sound familiar? Alexander paled. My father's initials. Isabella nodded. He came to her after college, after whatever happened that got sealed. She wrote that he was redeemable but resistant. He came twice, then never again. He chose his path, Ms. Edwards said. Now you choose yours. Isabella set down her scissors. Here's my offer. Option 1, I release everything tonight. The videos, the documentation, all of it. You'll face criminal charges, expulsion, social destruction. Your family's sins will be exposed along with yours. Option 2, Nathan asked hoarsely. Restorative justice. You face your victims, all of them. You enter mandatory therapy. You perform real community service, not the fake kind your parents buy. You work to undo the damage you've caused. And you help us dismantle the Brotherhood permanently. That's it? Christopher asked. No. You also become peer counselors. You use your positions to protect rather than prey. You speak publicly about what you've done and why it was wrong. You become the cautionary tale that prevents others from following your path. Public humiliation, Alexander said. Public accountability, Isabella corrected. Humiliation is what you did to others for sport. This is taking responsibility. And if we refuse, Nathan asked. Isabella gestured to Brooke, who held up a laptop. Then at 12:01 a.m., everything goes live. Every platform, every news outlet, every parent email. Your choice. The clock showed 11:58 p.m. 2 minutes, Ms. Edwards said. Alexander looked at his reflection shorn, exposed, somehow more himself than he'd been in years. I'll do it. The program. All of it. Alex, Nathan started. I'm tired. Nate. Tired of being him. Tired of hurting people because I hurt. Alexander stood. I want to play piano again. I want my sister to love me. I want to sleep without hearing his voice. Nathan crumbled. The therapy, will it help with the... He gestured at his wrists. Yes, Ms. Edwards said gently. I've already spoken with Dr. Martinez at the Crisis Center. She specializes in trauma and self-harm. Then yes, God, yes, I can't keep living like this. All eyes turned to Christopher. 11:59. My family's done anyway, he said finally. Might as well try to be better than them. Midnight passed. Brooke closed the laptop. What happens now? Alexander asked. Now you go home, Isabella said. Tomorrow, you start the hardest work of your lives, becoming human again. As they prepared to leave, Nathan paused. The other kids, the ones who will take our place. What about them? That's where you come in, Ms. Edwards said. Who better to spot the warning signs than those who lived them 6 months later? The cutting room had an official plaque. Outside its door, Rosewood Restorative Justice Center. The abandoned art room had become a beacon, drawing students who needed transformation rather than punishment. Isabella stood in the main room, now properly lit and furnished. The graffiti remained. William's documentation had become a memorial and reminder. But new art covered other walls. Hopeful pieces about growth and change. "Ready for today's session?" Brooke asked, camera in hand. They'd started a documentary series about restorative justice in schools. It was already gaining national attention. "Always," Isabella said. The door opened. Alexander entered, carrying a keyboard. He set it up in the corner where they'd started hosting music therapy sessions. His hair had grown out into a style that was entirely his own, nothing like his father's rigid cut. "Sophie's coming today," he said. "Wants to learn piano." "That's beautiful," Isabella said, meaning it. Nathan arrived next, wearing a peer counselor badge. The scars on his wrists were fading, replaced by tattoos of phoenixes rising from ashes. He'd become the crisis intervention specialist, the one who could spot self-harm signs others missed. 3 interventions this week, he reported. Got them all into counseling. Christopher was last, carrying law textbooks, with his family's empire collapsed. He'd decided to become a different kind of lawyer, one who defended victims rather than predators. He volunteered at the center 20 hours a week as part of his plea deal. "Mock trial team wants to use our story," he said, as a case study in restorative justice versus punitive justice. "Your call," Isabella said to the group. They'd become strange allies, bonded by the brutal honesty of transformation. Zachary burst in, practically glowing. Guess who just got accepted to art school? William, who'd become his mentor, high-fived him. "Told you those portfolio pieces were fire," as the room filled with other students, victims, and perpetrators working together toward healing. Ms. Edwards watched from the doorway. She wore a small pin with Julia's picture, no longer hiding her connection. "She would have loved this," Brooke said, joining her. "She would have," Ms. Edwards agreed. "But she'd love more that it exists because of what happened to her. That her pain became purpose." Isabella called the group to order. Today's session was about breaking cycles, how to recognize inherited trauma and choose different patterns. As she spoke, she touched her hair, now grown past her shoulders again, but kept in the warrior style she'd chosen that night. "Every cut is a choice," she began, her mother's words flowing through her. "Every transformation starts with acknowledging what needs to change. We're not here to erase the past. We're here to ensure it doesn't define our future." Around the room, heads nodded. Former bullies sat next to former victims. Those who'd hurt and been hurt learned together that healing was possible, that cycles could be broken, that sometimes the deepest cuts led to the most profound transformations. The cutting room had become what Isabella envisioned, not just a place of confrontation, but of resurrection, where masks fell away and authentic selves emerged, where the broken learned they could be whole, where those who'd caused breaks learned to help heal. As afternoon sun streamed through windows that had once been painted black, the sound of piano music drifted through the space. Alexander played while Sophie sang, their voices blending in harmony their family had never known. Nathan led a support group in the corner, teaching breathing exercises he'd learned in therapy. Christopher tutored younger students in debate, teaching them to use words for justice rather than weapons. And Isabella moved through it all, scissors at her belt, ready for the next transformation. Because there would always be next ones. The brotherhood might be broken, but the pain that created it still existed in the world. But now there was also hope and healing, and the radical possibility that even the worst among us could choose to become better. The camera panned across the room one last time, capturing dozens of students in various stages of transformation. Some were just beginning their journey. Others were months into the hard work of change. On the wall, a new piece of art had appeared overnight. It showed a phoenix rising from cut hair, spreading wings made of scissors and combs. Below it, in elegant script, "Where masks fall, truth rises." The cutting room lived on, one transformation at a time. 1 year later, Rosewood Preparatory Academy held its first day of transformation. What started as Isabella's solo mission had become a movement. Schools across the state were creating their own cutting rooms, their own spaces for restoration over retribution. Isabella stood at a podium in the main auditorium, addressing an audience of educators, students, and parents. Beside her sat the most unlikely panel: Alexander, Nathan, Christopher, and Zachary, former predators turned advocates. "We failed our children," Principal Morrison said, having replaced the previous administration. "We let tradition mask abuse. We let legacy excuse cruelty. But today we choose differently." Isabella took the microphone. "A year ago, 4 boys cut my hair in a hallway. They thought they were taking my power. Instead, they gave me purpose." She paused, letting her words sink in. Transformation isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about using it to fuel change. Alexander spoke next, his voice steady. "I was raised to be a monster, trained to see kindness as weakness. But monsters aren't born, they're made, which means they can be unmade." Nathan followed. "I turned my pain outward because facing it inward was killing me. Now I help others find healthier ways to process trauma. The scars remain, but they're not my story anymore." Christopher stood last. "My family built an empire on exploitation. I'm building a practice on restoration. Every case I take for victims is penance for the ones my family silenced." As they spoke, William unveiled his latest piece, a mural spanning the entire auditorium wall. It showed the evolution of the cutting room, from abandoned space to sanctuary. In the center, scissors transformed into wings, carrying students from darkness into light. Isabella's mother would have been proud. The broken had become healers. The hunters had become protectors. And somewhere in that transformation, a new tradition was born, one built on truth, accountability, and the radical belief that anyone could change. The cutting room's door remained open, ready for the next transformation.